Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tables, Ladders, and Podcasts, the only podcast that tried it at home and is now suing John Bradshaw Layfield. This is episode 130. I am your host, as always, Poit, and joining me on the panel to discuss the week in WWE, we have Wehrman.
Remember, kids, when life gives you booty, make booty aid.
Afterlife.
Now, is that like
It's poop,
actual ass matter, or is it just like dampness from a hot day?
It's like that really watery kind of shit, like, that burns.
Like, I've definitely got the flu, but I didn't know it because I don't have a fever.
Yeah, the kind where, like, you kind of want to go see a doctor afterwards because you're like, this isn't healthy.
Jabba.
The kind of thing where you look in the toilet and you could nickname it the Red Menace.
I really hope that Booty Aid is not going to be one of WWE's Cancer Awareness Months.
And Zevon.
Tried it. It was a bit nutty.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, now he gets all fucking judgmental about your shit joke.
When I was the one who started it. Like, ew, a pun, ew.
The problem was you guys went on with like the doctor shit and the river shits. I don't know, but it made it worse. So I
Nuts don't make
Okay,
it
so how
worse.
about that week in wrestling?
Now that we've turned off our one listener,
I think it was a very, very average week. Not a whole lot actually happened in the ring. On NXT there were a couple of things, but on the main roster, not a huge amount of news coming out of the actual ring itself.
Would it be bad if we just, talked about NXT on this show and then called it a day?
Yes.
I don't think anyone would care. I mean,
I sure wouldn't
You don't even watch NXT. Why are you here?
care.
I would care at least a little bit because I did put the time in to watch Monday Night Raw. And
I
that
even
will
watched
all
SmackDown
been
this
wasted.
week.
Oh, did you?
I did.
Taking one for the team.
Uh-huh.
You did get to witness one thing actually happening, though, didn't you? Although it was
Yeah,
fully
Fandango
recapped on
actually still works here, and he hasn't had like a full entrance and everything.
wow, really?
Raw.
Yeah. He got squashed by Braun Strowman.
Oh, well.
You shouldn't have thrown that part in there, Point. People that didn't watch SmackDown might have thought, well, maybe it's a whole different world over there. Maybe I should give it another try. And then, nope,
Yep.
forget that idea. So, have we got some news?
Yes, we do have some news. This past Saturday night, four-time AWA World Heavyweight Champion and WWE Hall of Famer Nick Bockwinkel passed away at age 80. If you were never familiar with Bockwinkel, he was one of the best heels ever. This guy was kind of like the guy that people who really, really, really worship Ric Flair act like Ric Flair is.
Yeah, from what I've
I mean,
read and
and
seen,
I
he didn't
don't-
seem over the top or anything.
I love
No.
that. I love that a guy dies and it's still an opportunity to shit on Ric Flair.
And look, I'm not, I'm not Afterlife. I actually like Flair, but Bockwinkel, like his promos, and his whole deal. He was the smartest man in wrestling. He was one of like the all-time like prototype main event heels. Like every guy who has tried to be like the conniving mastermind kind of heel.
You mean like the architect?
Yeah. If he wasn't also a cowardly idiot half the time. That is well, not entirely, but a huge chunk of it can be traced back to Bockwinkel. So it's a shame that he's gone, and it's a shame that most WWE fans will never really know how much the guy did.
But in terms of any wrestlers from back then, they really only bring up the really big faces, don't they?
Yeah, it's pretty much just Dusty, Ric Flair, and Bruno.
Yeah, the only heel that we really get brought up a lot is either Ric Flair or Piper.
Yep.
And even then, they're treated nowadays with the same adoration, if not more, than the heels got anyway.
They might occasionally say Harley Race in case somebody throws a spine buster or drops a knee.
Triple H, you mean?
Yeah. Basically, Triple H wishes that he was Harley Race.
And now anytime anyone else does it, they call it Shades of Triple H.
God. Anyway, speaking of a shade of Triple H, or somebody who spent a lot of time in the shade of Triple H's shadow, Billy Junn, as he is properly known, was recently fired by WWE for testing positive for performance-enhancing drugs during a powerlifting competition back in July. Why it took so long, I have no idea. While he's officially gone from the company, rumors and speculation abound indicate that this is only a temporary punishment and that he'll probably be brought back within 9 to 12 months in some capacity.
I would expect.
What are their rules exactly for the non-in-ring talent and drugs?
I have no
You
idea.
think they wouldn't be exactly the same?
It's probably why it took him so long to decide whether or not to let him go.
Would it be crazy to suggest that I assume Vince McMahon has never taken a drug test?
Yeah, I would not be surprised if he's never been tested. I'm positive Triple H doesn't get tested anymore.
If Scott Steiner is to be believed, then Triple H was never tested in the first place.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, CM Punk made a big to-do about that during the Colt Cabana podcast. Pointed out that Triple H never had to take any of the tests that anybody else did. So.
Not that we're implying that means anything in particular.
Oh no, I'm stating it emphatically. It's fucking corrupt as hell. Anyway, let's see. This week's controversial ending to this week's Raw, which used the death of Reed Flair as a catalyst for the feud between his sister Charlotte and Paige, was apparently never ran by Ric Flair nor Reed's mother Elizabeth, and both of them are extremely upset about it. Elizabeth responded on Twitter saying WWE writers are really that lazy, with several hashtags including cheap heat, disgusting, cruel, and sad. Flair on his podcast went into further detail saying, I never heard a word about it. I started crying when I was watching. And he went on to suppose that Charlotte, despite being the champion, likely wasn't in any position to say no.
Why would you do something like that? Why would you not run it past the alcoholic wreck of a man that it's going to most affect?
Yeah, it's just, hey, remember that time your son died 2 years ago?
And I'm going to kind of call bullshit here. And it's not even an anti-Ric Flair thing. It's just, if someone says, hey, how about you go out there on live television in front of, 2 million viewers, give or take, and have a moment where we use the death of your brother or half-brother or whatever as a gimmick.
I have heard rumors saying that it was Charlotte's idea. I can't confirm that, though.
There is just no way she could not say no to that if she wanted to. It's her fucking dead family member. There's no way.
Yeah, but I mean, like...
Imagine if they fired her for that.
Yeah. Well, look at what they did with, like, Chavo Guerrero.
There's firing someone, though, and then there's, oh, well, you said no, that's totally cool with us. And then 6 months down the line, she's, like, losing to Alicia Fox on Superstars.
Yeah, but she would still be able to make public that she's being punished for this reason, and everyone would shit on the company.
Has that ever stopped them, though?
No.
It's never stopped them, but let's be honest, right now, with the ratings they're getting, they're not going to want to piss off people who is tuning in.
Well, let's just say that the whole thing was a bit nutty and move on, shall we?
Did we?
Yes.
Where did he go, anyway?
I don't know where Mr. Nutty went.
Hmm.
Is
Well-
that his new name?
It will be until he comes back.
Okay.
Yes. On the subject of wrestlers and shows and being nutty, our favorite yam bag enthusiast, Taz, on his own radio show, accused this past weekend's UFC upset to be a work. He believes that Ronda Rousey took a dive and intentionally dropped the belt to Holly Holm. The quote saying is like, "Why are some people not seeing this? You don't want your champion sitting at home or making a movie, Roadhouse 2 or whatever Rousey's going to do, or just needs a personal break, which she's earned. But you don't want that person sitting around for 5, 6, 7 months with that championship. It's bad for business. Take the belt off her." He claimed that, just like in boxing, the finish in bigger fights are predetermined, but he also believes that Holm probably was not in on the work. In response to negative feedback that he got from that, Taz defended his assertions by referencing his background in both MMA and pro wrestling, concluding with, quote, "You know what? Kiss my ass. How about that, okay?"
I can just imagine him saying that as well.
You show him, Taz.
I think, unfortunately, Taz has taken a few too many shots to the Yambag region, if he actually believes that is the case. Is he not familiar with the fact that UFC have had numerous champions that have been out for like a year at a time, and then after that point they just crown interim champions? They seem to do that at least twice a year. So I don't think they would start predetermining their outcomes now, especially with one of their biggest stars.
You know, I would agree with that. I think he is just blowing smoke, but I can also kind of see where he's coming from. Because, like, Rousey is trying to get into all these things apart from UFC, right? She's trying to get into movies. She's doing Roadhouse 2. She's been lobbying for months to be in, like, a Marvel movie. All this other things. And so she's trying to get all these other obligations. You know, I mean, WWE has been trying to get a hold of her to make appearances and maybe wrestle for them. So why not just go, you know what? I'm going to...
But at the same time, why not also just say, if that's the case, I'm going to retire for now undefeated.
That's
yeah,
what people have done.
Like I said, I don't buy that it was a work, but I can see his reasoning.
If she was going to take a dive, then she wouldn't do it in such a way that she was absolutely dominated for like 7 minutes and risk lowering her stock. She would have just felt one punch to the face and then just thought, hey, this is a convenient time. Flop. Down I go. She wouldn't have taken such a savage beating for all that time and looked like a bit of an amateur chump, which is how it came off. So, I think Taz is being a little bit silly there. And we can talk more about what that means to WrestleMania, along with the other plans collapsing later on in the talking points, can't we?
Yes, we can. Let's see, what else?
Got more meaty news goodness, no doubt.
I've got a couple of things. TV actress Melissa Joan Hart, better known as Sabrina the Teenage Witch or the star of Clueless Explains It All, recently got into a Twitter spat with Kevin Owens. She tweeted, during Raw, "Kevin Owens is lazy, yeah, I said it." This, of course, provoked the ire of Owens himself, who responded, quote, "Sorry, I watched one of your shows a few months ago, and it put me in such a slumber that it's been hard to recover from." Several of Owens' fans and multiple wrestlers, including Big E, responded or blocked Hart until she clarified that her frustrations were with the way Kevin Owens, the character, was being handled by WWE Creative, not with Kevin Steen himself. So apparently Melissa Joan Hart is a huge wrestling mark.
And not a fan of the writing team.
Yeah.
Well, who the
Which
fuck?
basically describes most wrestling fans who use Twitter.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't think anybody can watch the current product and go, "Yep, I'm seeing no areas where this could be made better."
Yeah, when you ask someone what they love about wrestling, has anyone ever put the writing in the last 15 years?
Ever? Okay. I was going to say.
I would say probably not. Well.
Let's see, what else do we have? WWE has announced that there will, in fact, be a traditional 5-on-5 Survivor Series match at Survivor Series, like they're supposed to be.
Will it feature Team Barrett?
Almost definitely, because currently the competitors haven't even been named. So, my guess is it's going to be Barrett, Miz, and like the Cosmic Wasteland against the Dudley Boys, the Lucha Dragons, and Neville. I'm calling that right now. I think that's exactly what it's going to be.
How many times are Barrett and the Cosmic Key going to have their little interactions?
Remember when the name Survivor Series meant something?
Okay, you're using the word remember when talking about WWE booking.
Okay, but like Hell in a Cell has the Hell in a Cell match. Royal Rumble is a build up to the Royal fucking Rumble. Why is Survivor Series no longer a series of Survivor matches? We're lucky to get one anymore, let alone what? I think the most you've had in the last couple of years is 3?
With a week of build-up as well.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous. I think a lot of it just has to go. Yeah, it has to go with the whole Vince doesn't like tag team wrestling, and so they never give a shit about it.
It's not really tag team wrestling though. It's its own unique thing.
Yeah, because it's an elimination match, you never have to actually save your teammates, so who cares about the tag team aspect?
The one downside to the big matches like that is that a lot of people have to get pinned somehow, if someone was looking at it that way. But then, why are they so eager for people not to lose?
I swear to God, the last Survivor Series match that felt important was the ending of the Invasion, like the Team WWF versus Team Alliance, back in 2001. And that was the ending of one of the worst storylines ever. Or at least the biggest, most disappointing, I would say.
Oh, by the way, we've had a comment from Owen Brown. He says Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Yeah, so there. Pepperidge Farm is a huge fucking wrestling mark.
He also says that Taz is being more than a little bit silly.
Well, let's not go crazy now.
I was say we're adjusting for Taz standards here.
On the Yambag
Sliding
scale.
the scale of Yambag?
Yeah, I say Taz kind of wrecks the curve when it comes to silliness.
So,
all right,
Anyway, a couple other things. What seems to be a discouraging trend, attendance at the recent SmackDown tapings in Knoxville was not good. Several fans tweeted photos showing large sections of empty seats during the show. In some positive news, though, Raw's ratings were up this week, recovering to an average of 2.28 from last week's 2.23. So, there's that.
Without Cena, without Orton.
Cena, yeah. What else have we got? Since New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom 9 was a success earlier this year, I think in January, the upcoming Wrestle Kingdom 10 will also be aired in the U.S. with an English announce team. Matt Stryker will be returning along with Ring of Honor's Kevin Kelly instead of JR. Unlike Wrestle Kingdom 9, this won't be aired as a traditional pay-per-view, since Jeff Jarrett announced that GFW won't be helping promote the show, but will instead be aired on the streaming service New Japan World, which is kind of their version of the WWE Network. Currently, the card includes the main event, Kazuchika Okada defending the IWGP Championship against Hiroshi Tanahashi for the 20th time. They're like the Cena and Orton of New Japan. AJ Styles will be challenging Shinsuke Nakamura for the Intercontinental title in what is almost definitely going to be the match of the night. And it is rumored that Michael Elgin will be defending the Ring of Honor title at the event, probably against Jay Lethal. So, yeah, that actually sounds like a pretty damn good card to me. I'm actually looking forward to it.
And when is that?
December, I think. For some reason, they don't. It's not like an annual thing. They'll do like one or two a year.
Okay.
I'm gonna look up the exact January 4th. So I'm wrong. It is in January.
So, any other meaty chunks before that pool is all dried up?
The only other thing I've got is they've confirmed.
Wait a minute. I think that metaphor got away from you, sir.
It's a meaty pool.
How often is your pool full of meaty chunks?
That is not a question that is a question I don't think we want answered.
Owen Brown, answer that question. I'm being serious, Owen. Okay, so what else have we got?
The only other thing I've got is they've confirmed the rumor that Cena was taking time off to host a reality show for Fox. Apparently the name of the show is American Grit, and the show is about pitting America's toughest men and women against each other in military-themed survival situations. So that's a thing.
Okay.
Whatever gets him off TV and makes WWE have to do things in an interesting way, I'm fine with.
By the way, Owen Brown says that his pool is not full of meaty chunks.
Well, that's good to know.
It is. I'm glad we got that cleared up, Owen. Any other news?
That's all I've got.
Okay, so shall we step out of the kiddie pool and into the real source of meat? We've got our wrestling talking points of the week. So first of all, the tournament situation. Looking at the brackets last week, we suggested that perhaps it was going to be a little on the predictable side. It's played out pretty much as we thought, apart from one major upset that we didn't foresee, but ultimately had no real consequences on the tournament whatsoever.
Yeah,
That
who would have
being
ever thought
Kalisto.
Roman... I was about to say, who would have ever thought Roman Reigns would defeat Cesaro?
I
It
don't
actually
know.
was a good match.
No, that was a
Oh,
damn good match.
In fact, that match was so good that when it became clear, no, Reigns really is going to win by punching a guy, the crowd began to go, no, god damn it, like booed it for like
Mm-hmm.
right up to the pinfall,
Well, that's
I
the-
think.
That's the thing, like, I honestly would not mind Roman getting this retarded mega push if it meant that he was getting matches of this caliber more frequently, but
Here's what I don't get about it. When I was watching when I watched Raw when the tournament started, and Triple H is out there with Reigns, and just blathering like he does, and I'm like, what is the point of all this? And then he said, you know, you don't have to be in the tournament if you don't want. And I thought, well, no shit. He's already number one contender. This should have just be for the number 2 contender, right?
you would
And-
think it would be like, you would think it would be Roman and Sheamus, because Sheamus has Money in the Bank.
But then they're putting him back in another fucking battle to get exactly what he just got. Why do they think people want to see it again?
I don't know.
They feel
And
like if they
it's-
stack the odds against Roman Reigns, then the crowd will get on his side, even though we can all see through it.
Well, the other thing is Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins is at least a story in and of itself. It is a self-contained thing with actual history behind it. That was the only reason to be okay with Reigns getting a title shot. But now it's Reigns, who nobody fucking wants as the champion, getting his title shot against who fucking cares now.
And it felt like Rollins at least could have found a way to weasel out of it. Even if he didn't technically win the match, he would have still left with the belt, you thought, because he's no stranger to doing that. But in this tournament format, you don't really see any way that
No.
Reigns isn't going to win. So if he doesn't win, he'll just look like an idiot.
I think the only thing that is going to happen is, okay, Triple H is still looking for somebody to be his man. The only other thing they can do, apart from Roman just going the distance, is that Dean Ambrose turns instead, which would make no fucking sense, but that's never stopped them before.
They could explain it, at least. It'd make
They
it,
can't
it'd make,
explain a lot of things they never fucking bother with.
it'd make more sense than the whole Rollins joining them in the first place, because Ambrose is actually seeing what success Rollins had under the tutelage of Triple H and his cronies this whole time.
If you can call it
Record.
that, Jesus Christ.
Well, he's held the title for a long time, and in their world that means a lot. And Ambrose is a desperate man. He's a lunatic, you know.
But honestly, are we headed into a pay-per-view with a legitimate tournament build-up and nobody gives a shit?
Pretty much. Well, I mean, I'm really looking forward to Ambrose and Kevin Owens. I think that's going to be a damn good match because Kevin Owens is
Right.
Not
Kevin
that
Owens is great,
unpredictable.
and Ambrose is really good too.
That's difficult
and-
to call that match as well, because they could go either way. They could just have Reigns defeating Owens in the final, or they could do some shenanigans with Ambrose in the final.
I feel like it has to be Ambrose and Reigns in the final, which I think is also going to be a really good match. So I'm looking forward to the wrestling aspect, which is good because it's a wrestling show. But
Or, you know what they could do, and I would actually appreciate it, I think? Maybe. I'm actually not going to, swear to that. But if they have the match going on, and it's Ambrose and Roman, and at the last, it's like a 20-minute match, and at the last second, Triple H slides a chair into the ring, and Reigns picks it up, and bashes fucking Dean in the face when the ref's not looking and gets the pin. That I would be okay with. If we go through all this bullshit with no one giving a fuck about Reigns, and it turns out it's because they didn't give a shit about us, and it was Reigns just going, yep, there we go, did it anyway, fuck you guys, then I'd be sort of okay with it.
We'll have to wait and see, I suppose, won't we? What have we thought about the quality of the actual matches in the tournament so far? Because Reigns and Cesaro was obviously very good, even if you could tell how it was going to end after about 2 seconds after it was announced.
The instant it was booked.
Well, the thing about that match was it was so good that there were points where you were watching the match saying, no, this really could go either way. Because there were some moments that actually sucked you into the match.
There were points where I felt it would be really good if it ended like this. For example, when Cesaro rolled out of one submission move into the crossface and Reigns looked like he was fading and he looked like he could tap at any second. He thought, if he actually tapped out here, that could be huge development for both of these guys in one moment. Yep. Because that would lead Reigns into desperation, which could put him under the thumb of the Authority then. Because he's so desperate, he looks to them for help.
In fact, if what happened was Reigns got beaten and skyrocketed Cesaro, and then it's Cesaro versus whoever for the match, but then right before the match starts, right before the title match starts, Triple H comes out and says, "Oh, by the way, there already was a #1 contender." And then he brings out Roman Reigns because Reigns has signed on with him, and he gives him back his #1 contender spot, and so now it's a triple threat. There is so much more you can do than just the incredibly obvious fucking thing.
Also, whatever happened to guys at the top of the card having just a random person further down the card that's always like a thorn in their side, someone they can never beat, but they don't have to wrestle them that often, so it's okay. It doesn't affect their career too badly. Like Triple H, he could never really get a handle on Benoit, for instance.
Yeah.
But it didn't stop him being a multiple-time champion or anything. It's just, I got to face that guy again. And you knew he was up against the odds whenever he had to wrestle him, and he probably wasn't going to win. But they don't really do that anymore. They've had opportunities to do it, but then whenever John Cena loses to someone, it can never just end there. He then has to beat them 3 times in a row just so you know, no, that first time was a fluke. John Cena's still the top dog. No one has his number.
Yeah, they are so obsessed with enforcing their own narrative that they can't let anything grow organically.
And the thing is, it's not just that. It's that you aren't allowed. See, part of the problem with character development is that it involves more than your character. Perfect example is what you said earlier about if Cesaro had made Roman tap, then it would be instant development for both men. In wrestling, one character cannot develop without affecting other people, and these days, nobody is ever affected by anything that happens to anyone else. Nobody has actual enemies, because fuck, I mean, how many times has John Cena said on fucking Raw that Randy Orton is his friend? I mean...
Yeah, and those two tried to kill each other.
Or that he respects Edge now.
Yeah, so even the guys like who have or supposed to have that history, that past, like Rock and Stone Cold, it doesn't matter that much. Nobody has any these two fucking hate each other all the time, kind of.
Yeah. Plus, okay, the face-heel dynamic in WWE is so like set in only two archetypes. Good guys. Yeah, I use good in very loose terms because the characters are all fucking horrible people. But faces are always unbeatable. Like once you turn face, all your stats get like a +10. And heels are incompetent cowards who can never win unless you're Triple H, in which case you're Shao Kahn. Which is why, okay.
Has he ever come out as Shao Kahn for a WrestleMania match?
Yeah, WrestleMania 30.
Oh,
You remember?
right.
But okay, like fucking Bray Wyatt absorbs the souls of Kane and the Undertaker and adds them to his own like Swamp Man magic. I wasn't here last week, so I want to vent about it now.
Oh, go ahead.
So, by all rights, he should be the most powerful man in wrestling right now. He should be indestructible. Like, and I don't just mean, I can do goofy special effects. It should affect his matches, where now he can't be beaten. But he fucking wasn't. Like, as soon as Undertaker and Kane come back, they're at full health. Nothing.
I feel like, you know what would really help Taker and Kane right now is an improv class.
Yeah.
Because what's the first thing they teach you in improv? Never say no.
Yeah, it's always yes and. But imagine how much cooler this story would have been if, okay, after Taker and Kane are drained of their dead man demon
Their
from
mojo.
hell essence. Yeah. Bray Wyatt like brings them out in front of the crowd, like humiliated and tortured and shit, and is like, I don't have anything left I can take from you. So he just like Sister Abigails them and leaves them for dead. And then Taker enters the tournament, right, for the world title. But he doesn't have his dead man powers anymore. He's just Mark the tough old guy.
He's back to being mean Mark Calloway.
Yeah, well, basically. I mean, so Bray Wyatt is in the tournament, and he's fucking annihilating everybody because he's unbeatable now. He's got dead man powers and creepy swamp magic, right? Like, by all rights, no one should be able to touch him. Meanwhile, so he's just steamrolling people. And on the other end of the tournament, Taker, he's winning matches because even without his powers, he's still a tough old bastard. And he's been around forever, so he knows all the dirty tricks. So he's making it to the finals as well, but he's really struggling. By the time he faces Bray Wyatt in the finals, he's in bad shape. He's been beaten to hell and back. And so then you have a way more interesting dynamic where Bray Wyatt is on top of the world. He's deciding, like, I can just do whatever I please. Come at me, old man. And Taker is still just held up at this point by duct tape and spite. And the crowd is rooting for him because he's the legend, He's the one that we've been around for forever. And Bray Wyatt is this asshole who came up and stole his shit. Tell me that wouldn't be a much better story than 2 weeks before the show, Undertaker and Kane undo the storyline and just beat the shit out of Bray Wyatt, and then the story's fucking over.
Except it's not, because they have to come back and say, no.
I feel like you cannot expect a story that is that interwoven with a tournament that was thrown together at the last minute because the champion got injured.
I just came up with that right now!
but what you're describing requires weeks of build-up. How do you weave that into the tournament?
You do it right at the beginning of the show, like as soon as they knew the tournament was going to happen. As soon as they knew the tournament was going to happen, they should have put Taker and Bray Wyatt in there. They shouldn't have done this stupid tag team bullshit where Taker and Kane are fighting two guys that they're definitely going to beat. So who the fuck cares?
I do agree that this throwaway tag match is, a throwaway.
They write storylines. That's their job.
The weird thing is, can you imagine the meeting where Bray Wyatt walks into Triple H's office and says, "Hey, brother, I noticed you're having a tournament for the World Heavyweight Champion. Why is my name not on the list?" And then he's like, "Oh, sorry, we just overlooked you. Yeah, I have 2 of your men buried in my swamp right now, brother. Yeah, just no room. Sorry."
Yeah,
For some
so
reason, that
so
doesn't scare the shit out of me.
Kalisto is in it.
Yeah, but not
And
the
Titus
fact
O'Neil.
Not the guy who, by all rights, is the top heel in the company right now.
you
I
would
feel like
think.
Bray Wyatt could kidnap Kalisto and use him as some kind of terribly racist like, swamp pinata.
He
No,
absorbs.
so Bray Wyatt,
That would
Bray
be the
Wyatt
straw.
will drain Kalisto's soul and start doing Hurricane Runners.
That would be the straw, though. You kidnap Taker and Kane, who have been there for 20-some years, no big deal. But you kidnap Kalisto, motherfucker, you got my attention now.
To be fair, it appears that he did retain part of their souls at least, because he still has command of all their ineffective kind of pyro shenanigans, just none of the actual stuff that matters, like fighting other people.
But Taker and
didn't have those
Kane
powers.
still have those powers. Bray Wyatt didn't drain them. He just copied them. He's the super scroll of the swamp.
At the very best, he got joint custody.
Yeah, when Taker came out on Raw, he cut like a 9-minute promo just to say, "No, we're still us, you bastards." Like, that was it.
And, I mean, does it not feel like this has just been an astounding waste of time?
Yes!
And a waste of...
And
It's a waste of Undertaker and Kane's time, because Undertaker and Kane don't get anything from beating Eric Rowan and Beef Stroganoff, or whoever the fuck it's going to
It
be.
seems like they're just doing that to drag the feud out even more, because Wyatt's
Yeah.
obviously not going to put himself in there, and then they'll say, "Okay, Bray, we beat your goons, now we want you," and then he says, "Okay, but it's going to be at WrestleMania," or something.
But you know what's
Well, it's
really
not going to be
great?
WrestleMania. They've already basically announced it's going to be Taker and Cena at Mania. So Bray
Something
Wyatt
before
is just...
WrestleMania.
Yeah, he's going to be at, like, TLC, where they just crush Bray Wyatt again, so he doesn't fucking matter anymore.
Well, this does seg nicely, actually, into one of our other talking points. Now, the wording of this particular one may seem like it's a joke, but I am actually being deadly serious here. Now, Undertaker did recently have his soul drained. He seems to have retained his powers, though. But does the Undertaker's dong still give you goosebumps like it used to?
You know...
So I am going to say that The Undertaker's dong never gave me goosebumps because when I started watching wrestling, his entrance theme was done by Limp Bizkit.
Fair enough.
Um,
I will say yes, but then when he gets to the ring, depending what he's doing, it can dissipate very quickly.
It really depends on how motivated he is. I mean, if he's cutting a promo, oh god, no. Because as much as I love Undertaker, and Undertaker is my favorite wrestler ever, his promos are hot garbage. They always have been. Like,
No, they're not hot garbage. Kane is the man of fire. My garbage is cold and dead.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. But no, it's like reading a really bad EFED promo, isn't it? Just get ready for darkness and misery, guys. But
It really
that's the
is
thing.
like
If
someone
Undertaker,
wrote him. All of his promos are like somebody wrote something down real quick and handed it to him right as he's behind the curtain going, "Yeah, I got it," and then tosses it
Yeah.
after like one quick skim.
that's the thing. Like Taker is amazing when he just shuts the fuck up and chokeslams somebody.
He wasn't really bad when he was in his other gimmick on the mic, when he was just
Yeah,
being
he was pretty
himself.
good when he got to talk like a human being.
When he wasn't the Undertaker at all.
Pretty
Yeah.
much. Anyway, I will say seeing the supernatural mystique of the dead man was somewhat lessened when he tombstoned Brad Maddox dressed as the gobbledygooker on Jimmy Fallon's show.
Yeah, what was
Though
the deal
I
with
would like
that?
to point out, me first, Afterlife.
was
I would
the
point out,
single
that
best
was the
tombstone.
fastest entrance.
I've not
The
seen
fastest
any
entrance
tombstone
Ticker's ever
anyone
done.
that quality in years.
It was a pretty good tombstone, wasn't it?
It was the first
Yeah.
tombstone in probably, I'm going to say at least 5 years that didn't have an 8-inch gap between the floor and the guy's fucking cranium.
Maybe a slight exaggeration.
Well, we used to complain about the tombstone that Kane gave Linda McMahon on the stage, if you recall, when her head was, like, at his groin height
Yeah.
when he hit the ground. But all tombstones since then have been somewhere around that mark, haven't they?
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, I can understand why they did that one. I can't imagine Kane would have a very great explanation for Vince. Like, sorry I broke your wife's neck.
On metal. Kind of cracked your skull at the time as well.
Yeah.
So, shall we move on?
Yes.
Now, this is another interesting talking point, because we've been complaining about the use of the women on the main roster for quite some time, it's safe to say. So they
Well,
give
I, for
them,
one,
they give
I've
them,
never
they give them the closing segment on Raw, but they did sour it a little bit with all that talk of dead relatives, which we touched on earlier. So is this what the Divas Revolution needed? Is this the injection of, dare I say, life that the Divas division needed? Or is this just horrible because of the actual content of the segment?
First
You know-
of all, a contract signing has never been a main event. It might be at the end of the show, but that's because someone has always scheduled things wrong. It is never a main event.
Well, in
Yeah.
that case, the main event was Del Rio versus Kalisto.
That would be better. Oh, well, fuck it, never mind. Because that's a whole other
Yeah, I
thing.
think you just kind of ended your own argument there.
Yeah, fuck
We
it.
can talk about that in a minute, actually. But
Oh, we will.
in terms of the Divas, do you think going on last on Raw is a sign that they actually care about the division now, or is it a sign of, well, we'll just throw them this?
Well, okay, I think it's
So
another sign of WWE's well-meaning incompetence. Like, they want people to care about the Divas. They want that to be a prominent part of the show. But then they still give them segments that just make everyone really uncomfortable.
so
Oh, go ahead.
So I do think that like them hyping up this contract signing all night and then having it close the show is a sign that they're trying to push the Divas more. And actually, if you go to WWE.com right now and look at the Survivor Series page, like they generally have like the main event for pay-per-view as the first match displayed on the pay-per-view page, and that the match in that spot right now is Charlotte versus Paige.
Huh.
And is it just me that finds it weird that the only time that we would want a Divas stable war, presumably, would be heading into Survivor Series, and they ditch it just before that after we've been complaining about it for months? Anyone find that odd?
I do find it pretty funny.
Funny in a
I'm not
sad kind of
entirely
way.
surprised, though. I mean, so Nikki Bella's out recovering from an injury right now.
Yeah.
So what would the teams be? I mean, you've got Charlotte and Becky Lynch and Natalya as the only face divas?
Well, you could just set it up as the old guard of the Divas division against the new blood, if you will, as a Survivor Series match. It writes itself, really, doesn't it?
So
You
you,
always bring back Barbie Blank for a night.
Have a couple of the
So you
established
have,
teams come out and say, well, it's heading into Survivor Series, we're going to prove that we're still the dominant force in the Divas division. The Divas Revolution doesn't mean anything. Come out, prove us wrong. Then out come all the new Divas to silence them.
Mhm.
That could work.
And then whoever wins that match, you can give a bit of a push to afterwards, send them towards the title. Someone like Becky Lynch, perhaps.
Becky needs something going for her right now. Like,
Well, she's got the last
Goggles.
kicker.
She's got goggles.
Yeah.
Like,
I do believe
she
her
was.
finisher is called the Disarm Her.
Yeah. Like, okay, Becky was in one of the best matches of the year with Sasha, so it's not like she doesn't have anything going for her. Like, in terms of, like, what she can offer to the show. She's damn good. But ever since she came up to the main roster, basically, I mean, it's the same story that we have every time someone comes up from NXT. Like, she's just been treading water because they don't have a story for her.
It's sad.
Yes, it is.
Well, shall we move on to our next talking point, which also may sound like a joke, but I assure you that it's not. Is Michael Cole better than a fish tank?
No.
Moving on.
Would anyone complain if a fish tank actually replaced Michael Cole for reals?
It would be amusing to just see a fish tank there between Byron Saxton and JBL.
You know what, though? I would ask that Byron Saxton become, like, the new backstage guy and just have a fish tank and JBL. Because then you would have JBL just being, look at that fish tank, that's how you do it. And then a shot of just him really excited next to a fish tank.
That, I think, might be the only way to make JBL entertaining.
Just talking to a fish tank.
Oh, God. Just insanely, the whole 3 hours, really excited, and he's hearing shit. He'll be like, did you see that one, fish tank? Boy, you're telling me. It's just these weird conversations. It's like Garfield minus Garfield.
I would take it a step further and then also replace JBL with another fish tank. And just have...
Only if they call them the official Raw announce team.
Yeah,
I could
and just
actually-
have Raw, like, be accompanied with only, like, I mean, the sounds of, you know, the ring and everything, and then just the quiet noise of, like, the fish tank filter going, maybe some bubbles occasionally.
How about just Michael Cole, but inside the fish tank? While
Dead.
talking underwater. Not dead, he hasn't
With
knocked
no snorkel, no
In
breathing
his
apparatus.
straight jacket, his feet are chained to a cinder
He's like,
block.
If Michael Cole becomes like a Houdini-style escape artist, and he has to like escape, he has to like call the match while like escaping from a fish tank or like being like hung upside down from a crane in a straitjacket.
Well, bring back the coal mine, but just fill it with water. There
It's
you
like
go.
tonight. It's like during the duration of Kalisto versus Alberto Del Rio, the coal mine will slowly be filled with chlorine gas. Let's see if I can make it out in time.
That would add some suspense to the show, actually.
So that's an entirely different kind of beat the clock challenge.
Yeah.
So here are some
Tell me you
questions for the
wouldn't watch
audience.
So,
What would you
Michael
like to
Cole
see?
versus chlorine gas, balls count anywhere.
Which substances would you like to see fill Michael Cole's tank? And who else would you like to see in the fish tank?
Who else would you like to see poisoned by chlorine gas?
Feel free to ignore that one. So Owen Brown just commented immediately, and he says, so we're advocating drowning Michael Cole?
Yes, we are.
I
Yes.
don't know about that.
Drowning him, gassing him,
Okay,
whatever needs to be done.
We're skirting around the edges of advocacy, I would say.
I'm not saying that murdering Michael Cole would itself be funny. I'm saying that if I stumbled upon a plexiglass case in which dead Michael Cole was clearly murdered earlier, that'd be really funny.
There
So
you go.
You discovering the drowned, bloated body of Michael Cole.
Yeah,
Amusing.
that would be funny.
What?
Okay then. So moving on to our next talking point. Speaking of people that are floundering, the Dudley Boys. They're not really doing
I
anything
hate
right
you,
now.
Java.
It's been a while since they put anyone through a table. It's been a while since they put anyone something. When was the last time they did anything, really, other than beat up the Ascension?
And
I
you know,
mean,
my
they-
question when I watched that match, my question was, why aren't the Dudleys allowed to lose? And not just lose, but I mean like actually get beaten. Because in all the matches that they lost with the New Day, they weren't beaten. There was always shenanigans. There was always disqualifications. It was always never a clean win. Always never. It was never a clean win. But now they're just beating on the Ascension for no reason. So why can't they lose a match?
Because they're from the past.
But the thing is, they go on and on about how great they are, how great they've been for 20 whatever years, except that because now it would mean something to actually beat the Dudleys. It doesn't mean anything for them to beat guys who aren't made yet. So why should we defend anyone? How can anyone actually defend the Dudleys not losing to anybody?
I think they're just keeping the Dudleys nice and warm in the microwave until they want them to challenge for the belts again, which is why they're not really doing anything substantial. Does that seem fair? They don't want them to lose any steam, so they're just kind of keeping them just on the fringes of our consciousness.
I would say they have lost steam.
I would say so, but that's just because they've been unsuccessful, but I think that's what they were trying to do.
They didn't have a build-up. They had a return in an instant fucking title feud, and now nothing, because they couldn't get the fucking job done, even though they're supposed to be the best. It made no sense to put them immediately in a 2-on-3 feud when everyone knows that there were 3 Dudleys. And then never bring in Spike to help even the odds.
I'm still waiting for that. Like if and when they get around to the New Day, the Dudleys challenging the New Day again, they have to get Little Spike back.
I would certainly
Isn't
hope.
he a school teacher?
Yes.
Well, yeah, but so was fucking Kane. So was Tajiri between his wrestling bouts. I mean, people can have 2 jobs.
That's true.
Most
wasn't
people
Esther
do
a
these
teacher
days.
while he was wrestling?
I don't know.
George
Scotty
the Animal
Giamatti
Steel
was a
was.
private player for years.
Well, shall we move on and talk about the collapse of all the WrestleMania plans this year? Because I believe Mr. Wehrman recently summed it up with a Facebook post. All the various plans that they've had that have slowly crumbled around them. So if you want to go through the gist of that.
Oh my God! So this year, okay, WrestleMania 32. They're booking the AT&T Stadium in Dallas, this huge arena. They want to fill up 100,000 people, right? They're aiming to break the record from WrestleMania 3. They're aiming to break Hogan and Andre. So in order to do that, they had to put together the biggest matches they've ever run, right? So what were the plans? Well, the obvious one, okay, it's Undertaker's last match ever, probably. And the one guy who he is, everyone has always fantasized about him facing, they finally got him. So we're finally going to see The Undertaker versus Sting. Oh no, I'm sorry, Sting screwed up his back. Okay, well, we've got The Shield, the most dominant team in the history of wrestling, who have split up. All of them have gone their separate ways, but now they're thrust back into facing each other, all going for the gold that tore them apart in the first place. You've got Roman Reigns versus Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins. Oh nope, sorry, Seth Rollins shattered his knee and now he's out. Okay, well, how about the greatest feud, the feud that defined the Attitude Era? The Rock versus Triple H. Oh, nope, can't do that either because The Rock's movie studio won't let him wrestle anymore because it's an insurance liability. Okay, well, maybe we can get a guest appearance by a legitimate badass who's also a huge wrestling fan. The WWE in-ring debut of Ronda Rousey. Oh no, Ronda Rousey got knocked the fuck out. So what do they do?
Yeah, because even if she was still willing to do WrestleMania, it obviously wouldn't be as impactful as if she was still this undefeated monster. So in terms of her losing, it's probably good for the UFC because I imagine millions of people are going to be buying the rematch, but bad for WWE because if she was kind of on the fence about doing WrestleMania or not, the fact that she lost and she's got all these other projects going on, does she really have time to be messing around in wrestling when she's got more serious matters to contend with now? I would say probably not. And what else have WWE got that they can call on? Presumably Lesnar's going to be at Mania, but what are you going to do with him this year?
I think the only two matches they can really run, they've already said they're going to do Taker and Cena, which they really should have done while the streak was still intact, because Cena, honestly, apart from Brock, was the only person I could have legitimately bought as the guy to end the streak, just because...
That was the only person where there would have been any kind of tension going into the match, because you really wouldn't know who was going to win. Because with Lesnar, It was a shock, but we all thought Lesnar was going to lose, so it wasn't that suspenseful.
Yeah, the other only thing that I would say they could do with that, have, between now and WrestleMania, have Taker win the title one last time, have John Cena win the Royal Rumble, and then you've got... Because you can't have the tension of Undertaker or have the streak anymore, have it be A, Undertaker's career, and B, John Cena's trying to break Ric Flair's title record. That's the only way it can work. That's the only way you can have tension in it, because it's things that will probably happen, but that the fans absolutely don't want to see. And so...
So, an episode of Raw.
Well, what I mean is, no matter what happens, John Cena is going to be the heel in that match. He is going to be the bad guy. He's going to be the guy the crowd hates and boos no matter what they do. So build on that. Run with it. Maybe you don't turn him heel, but you definitely make it a point that he is going against the wishes of the crowd. And so that's how you make that happen. The other match that I see them doing, and they're almost definitely going to do that, is they're absolutely definitely going to run Brock versus Roman Reigns 2 for the title. But it won't be the main event. It won't be the main event. Cena and Taker is going to be the main event. They learned their lesson after this last year.
I don't see what that match would do for anybody, though.
It'll finally put the belt on Roman. Because I don't think he's going to win the title at Survivor Series. I think Dean Ambrose is going to swerve them, and then Brock will take the belt at the Royal Rumble.
I don't know if the crowd will really be down with that.
They won't. But I think the thought is, well, it's not the main event, so by the time the main event rolls around, they'll be over it.
They shouldn't have to hide the vegetables among the meat and mashed
They
potatoes,
shouldn't, but that's what they're going to do. What other options do they have?
Well,
I would be amazed and entertained.
Let's be careful with that plan, though, because the Royal Rumble has been proven to not be shit-proof.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, the last 5 years, the Royal Rumble has been just a fucking train wreck in slow motion.
And the last two back-to-back have been booed out of the fucking...
Yeah. That's this year, for the last couple of years, the road to WrestleMania has felt like a fucking death march. So,
as bad as everything is right now, let's not forget that we've got the sword of Damocles hanging over us in Sheamus form as well. He's got that Money in the Bank briefcase. They're going to want him to cash that in at some point.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean he's going to win.
Whoa, okay, no. Just because you are scheduled to win the briefcase and keep it for a while doesn't mean that you get to be the one who cashes it in, Rey Mysterio.
Oh, man.
Let's not forget that for some reason, shit happens every now and then for no reason. So, let's not be too eager to point out that it will be Sheamus.
Well, it's just there in the back of our mind, just to remind us, yes, something awful is going to happen.
Wouldn't it be funny if Sheamus goes and tries to pull one of those full year situations to cash in on the last night possible, and somebody just kicks him in the nuts, and he fails to cash in his money in the bank. Wouldn't that just be hilarious? Because that hasn't happened yet. I don't care what you say. I would laugh my ass off if Sheamus goes to cash it in, gets booted in the nuts, and drops, and the dude just runs away, and Sheamus cannot cash in.
You should have until the start of the next Money in the Bank ladder match to cash in your contract. But if they start raising it up and Sheamus hasn't cashed it in yet, and he just kind of grabs it, and he's swinging his legs as it's raising it off the ground.
He better catch it quick, because with his accursed little arms, I'm not sure if he can really grab it if they hoist it too fast.
Tiny little arms. So, who can I...
So I would like to put forth a scenario for the consideration of you fine gentlemen.
Okay.
So let's say Survivor Series goes as Women has predicted, that Dean Ambrose turns heel and becomes champion. What would you think of, at the end of the opening segment of Raw the next night, when Ambrose is, like the new corporate champion, yada yada yada. At the end of the segment, Triple H is like, oh, by the way, I'm sorry, but Michael Cole, as part of the terms of Dean Ambrose joining the Authority, and then two workers back from the back bring out a fish tank.
That would be like an instant face turn, though. Like that would make Ambrose the most popular guy in the company. Like that.
Would that be bad? Would an Authority face turn be bad?
Yes.
It would be
at least they would make up their minds as to what the fuck they're supposed to be. I am so goddamn tired of the Authority being these like manipulative tyrants who then go, "But you guys love us, right? Hey."
No, because even now, when they're all like, "We're gonna shit on Dolph Ziggler and fuck who the hell, whatever other faces exist on our show right now," and then in comes fucking. Hell, it'll be Seth Rollins being like, "Hey, you guys gotta help me because I'm a whiny cunt." And they'll be like, "Yeah, well, man up, damn it. You're our guy. And so we're going to treat you like shit for tonight." So they're always being mean to good guys and bad guys. There is no real line for them.
That sounds about right. Well, I think we've wrapped up that particular talking point, so shall we move on to our lines of commentary and crowd chants? Mr. Poit, you normally have one or two stashed away over there.
Actually, why don't you start us off while I bring up my notes?
Well, I'll start us off with a wonderful line from JBL on Raw, which we referenced earlier on. The average person who wants to try that at home, try it! When talking about a deadlift powerbomb, basically, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So he was encouraging people to try moves at home, and then Michael Cole quickly reminded the audience not to try any of the moves they see at home, and then JBL was forced to backtrack a little. He said, "Well, yeah, I was just making a point how difficult it is, Michael." So obviously Michael Cole had a little word in his ear as soon as JBL came out with that line. Someone wasn't too pleased with him saying that. But it would be quite funny though if JBL was just telling people to try virtually everything that was on the screen.
That would be great.
There's a reason only Roman Reigns does that. He's the only one who can. To prove it, try it at home on your coffee table right now. There's a reason they call it high risk. Try it off your balcony.
You'll see what I mean. Hell, you couldn't even do that to your Cocker Spaniel, could you, you pussy?
That pop-up powerbomb is one of the most devastating moves. To prove it, try it on your little brother.
Yeah, show your mom.
And
all right, so I have a line of commentary, which was the announcers calling Tyler Breeze's finisher on Raw. Caught him. That was it. They also said, I think, nothing when R-Truth hit his finisher.
Well, why would you?
Yeah, that's
R-Truth doesn't have a finisher. He does a move that he expects to win matches with. I wouldn't call it a finisher.
That's true.
That is spot on, man.
So, any more, Mr. Poit?
I think R-Truth's finisher is called his opponent's finisher.
Let's see. I think that might have been the only one I noted down.
Well, I've got two lines that fall into the "I beg your pardon" of the week category. When a commentator says something that, looking back, may be a little questionable. So, first of all, we have, this is from Byron Saxton. He came out with the immortal line, "He's doing it with moist lips. There's nothing wrong with that."
Go on.
I'm not going to give any context for these.
Good. Why would you?
And here's a really good one from NXT from Rich Brennan. He said, and I quote, I'm going to, all the pauses, the timing is exactly as he said it. "The referee's dealing with Dawson and Wilder from behind."
Okay then.
I feel like there should have been a comma in there somewhere, or at least some kind of pause, but there wasn't. He just said it all as one sentence, and it sounded very, very questionable to me. There had been question marks raised over the exact tag team dynamics in NXT, and whether there's some kind of undercurrent of more than just tag team partners going on.
Yeah, I think at this point it's a full-on current. Like, the subtext is just text.
So, speaking of NXT, shall we move on? Because we've got new NXT Tag Team Champs, and we also have new NXT Tag Team Chumps.
Yes. So to start that off, the men formerly known as the Mechanics, Dash and Dawson, are now the new NXT Tag Team Champions, which honestly didn't surprise me. I mean, have the Vaudevillains done anything since becoming champions?
You know, to be fair, has any set of NXT Tag Team Champions really done anything after they win the title?
Maybe
Like,
the Wyatts?
Yeah, okay, the Wyatts, but they're kind of like from that generation right before NXT became the thing that it is now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you are right, but I do feel that the Vaudevillains would have been better served on at least this episode of NXT, being Bayley's tag team partners, because, you know, chivalry and all that jazz.
I can see that. I gotta wonder what they're gonna do now that they're not the tag champs. Because, I mean, going up to the main roster for the Vaudevillains is a death sentence.
Immediately, there is no chance of them being a success on the main roster. Absolutely zero.
Yeah, I mean, that is like case number one of an NXT gimmick that the main creative team would have absolutely no fucking idea how to handle.
I mean, the NXT creative team have barely any idea what to do with them. So there's going to be no hope for the main roster.
It's interesting that the NXT tag team division has so many good tag teams, but not much in the way of tag team stories.
Yeah, and it always feels like there's not much competition. Like, despite there being a lot of really great teams, it always feels like, okay, now it's our turn to be the really dominant team and beat everyone. And then next month, it's our turn to be the dominant team to beat everyone. Like, there never seems to be any, like, anyone can beat anyone at any time dynamic going on.
I mean, I suppose that Dash and Dawson could be, like, maybe transitional champs for Jordan and Gable to become champion?
I think that's almost definitely what's going to happen.
I think we are already willing and Gable.
Jordan and Gable seem like they're going to be the new top face tag team of NXT while waiting for Big Cass to come back from injury.
Well, I don't know if Enzo and Kaz were particularly the big face team. Well, in terms of crowd reaction, yes, but in terms of handling on the show,
no.
Yeah,
you're correct.
So the tag division.
On the subject of handling on the show, So Blake and Murphy lose to the Hype Bros. And I think one of them got belly to Bailey.
Yes. Murphy. Murphy ate the belly to Bailey, which I thought was cool.
It was cool.
Like, in terms of, like, Bailey's character development, like, she's always been, like, kind of the one who gets, pushed around and kicked when she's down and all this stuff, and she's always kind of just taken it. But now that she's stepped up and she's, come into her own and defeated her archenemy and all this stuff, now this new person comes along and throws the biggest and most powerful person Bailey has ever faced, just in terms of, his physical size, puts him in Bailey's way, and Bailey's just like, get the fuck out of my face. If she had said that, that would have been incredible.
So is there any way back for the new tag team chumps of NXT then? Blake and Murphy.
I don't know. I mean, I think that... Like, what were they doing before this tag team? Were they just like a couple random jobbers?
Yeah, they were just yeah.
And then they were just a couple of random tag team champions.
Yeah. And then they lost half of their names.
Yeah, but they did gain an Alexa Bliss in that time.
And there are 2 names in Alexa Bliss.
Yeah, so maybe they traded them in. And to be fair, it was probably a good trade.
Yeah. I mean, she is a pretty mean pixie. Speaking of which, she will be challenging Bailey for the NXT Women's Championship tonight.
Oh, yeah.
She will, but there's a rather large shadow looming over that women's title picture at the moment, though.
And that would be the shadow cast by the rather imposing Nia Jax, who I'm pretty sure is larger than Murphy.
Probably.
That should be the tagline for Nia Jax from now on. She's larger than Murphy.
And apparently she's talking to Eva Marie for something.
Hair dyeing tips.
Because what Nia Jax needs is Eva Marie as a mouthpiece.
I don't know, man. Like, I don't want to just dismiss Nia Jax immediately, but right now I'm not feeling it at all.
Does she have a lot of wrestling experience or very little? Because all I could find on her is that she was previously a plus-sized model. That's what's listed on her Wikipedia page. I don't know whether she has any extensive wrestling background. Whether she would need it, with her size advantage over the opponents anyway. With the style she's going to be wrestling, I can't imagine it would be that technically intricate.
Mm-hmm.
No, but I just think I find it really. It's the same problem I had with, like, when Roman Reigns started getting big, while Daniel Bryan was right there. It's, here's somebody who is genuinely phenomenally talented, who the crowd immediately loves, who we've grown to connect with, and will root for come hell or high water.
That being Dana Brooke.
Yes, of course, that's exactly what I was talking about. And then, well, here's this person who's kind of okay, and the crowd doesn't give a shit about, but they're related to The Rock, so it's time for the fucking rocket to the fucking moon.
Well, the division is not quite as compelling as it was a few months ago, since the main roster have hijacked and ruined.
No, but there's still good stuff
talent
on there. There's still good stuff on there that I think is far more deserving than fucking Nia Jax, because we actually know who the fuck they are.
For example, Evil Emma.
Yeah, Evil Emma, who is really good. Alexa Bliss, who is challenging for the title. I think Carmella has come leaps and bounds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and if we're just going to have the new person who is a monster who just trucks people, fucking Asuka! Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, Asuka should be the women's division's Goldberg. And I don't mean that she should shave her head and get beaten up by Chris Jericho. I just mean...
And punch windows.
Yeah. I mean...
Asuka!
Yeah.
Asuka!
Like, she should show up and absolutely fucking annihilate whoever is in her way. And was like, whenever they decide to give her the title shot, everyone will be like, yeah, okay. Because you can only buy somebody being dominant just because they're large or because they're related to The Rock for only so long. Like, I don't buy the Big Show being dominant ever again, and he's the world's largest athlete. Because we've seen him being treated like a doofus so many times. I don't buy the Big Show anymore. And I can see them trying to do the same thing with Nia Jax, where they'll put her in some goofy shit, they'll turn her face, turn her heel, whatever. And there's only so long that I can buy Nia Jax. I will buy Asuka any day of the week because I've seen Asuka as a fucking monster.
Minor side note, by the way. Is there any wrestler other than Goldberg whose signature chant makes it sound like the audience are really bored?
I don't think so.
Because it's so droning, isn't it? It's like, oh, well, here he is. Goldberg, Goldberg.
It is almost kind of like a mocking chant. This is Goldberg.
So I'm going to operate on the presumption that Nia Jax's Wikipedia page is accurate. It says that she decided to pursue a career in wrestling after watching her cousin The Rock perform at WrestleMania 28 3.5 years ago.
Oh, Christ.
So she didn't actually see him wrestle when he was good.
No, she was
I guess
inspired.
not.
She was inspired by the match where his guts fell out.
Yes.
Well, on that bombshell.
I mean, more power to Dwayne for being able to wrestle when your fucking guts fell out.
But now look what you've done. So, shall we move on? Because a couple of people who we were concerned were being in the NXT title picture, possibly prematurely or just because we don't like them very much.
Wait, no. Sorry, this was not the match where the Rock's guts fell out. That was the next year.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Off, though.
It was 29 where his guts fell out.
So we don't really want Apollo Crews or Baron Corbin to be winning the NXT Championship. Can we agree on that? So I think
Yes.
we're quite pleased that they've gone off on their own little side quest, shall we say, and
But
left.
it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, but I don't think we should complain too loudly about that because now we get Joe versus Bella on their own, and we get the other guys that we're not so keen on just yet in their own match.
Yeah, I mean, I think. All right, obviously Apollo Crews, they really, 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 really want him to be the top guy. Probably in 6 months. Like, once Finn goes up to the main roster, and Sami Zayn is almost definitely going up to the main roster as soon as he comes back, I think they really have their heart set on Apollo Crews being the top guy. But he hasn't made that connection just yet. So, putting him in a feud with somebody who the NXT crowd has been trained to hate, with Baron Corbin, I think is a good step, because then it'll be kind of like, hey, I'm on your side, right? Fuck this guy, right?
And imagine if the crowd turned, though, and we actually got Corbin chants. Do you think they
I
would
don't
pull
know.
the
I mean,
plug?
I would say that's unlikely, but the NXT crowd is weirdly fickle.
And if they sense that that's what the creative are going for, and they think that they can be manipulated, but like that, maybe they'll sense it.
Yeah, and I like Apollo Crews. I don't like his finisher. But no, I don't want him to be the top guy just yet.
Don't
I
want him
think-
to be forced down our throats. We
Yeah.
want to consume him organically.
Exactly. Like, I want to make a connection to him before I just go all in.
Yeah, you want to be able to kind of slice him up and eat him
Okay,
piece by piece.
Leave him in a pool of big meaty chunks.
Exactly. You don't want to be.
Along with Michael Cole.
You don't want the entire fish tank full of meaty chunks funneling into your mouth. You want to be able to pick out which one you want at any given time.
You want to let it simmer for a little while in a little chamber that you slowly fill with chlorine gas.
Maybe let it marinate in the special sauce, like the Yeti.
We have way too many metaphors. We're just crashing together right now.
Okay, so on that, I think we've pretty much wrapped up almost everything, but I have saved this till last because I feel like it's going to go off on a tangent.
It is.
All you people over there are residents of Mex America. How are you finding the regime?
What was the point in rehiring Alberto Del Rio? He has forgotten?
Well, it's two great nations that have now come together.
No. First of all, that wasn't very fun when TNA did it. It's really not fun now when it's fewer people and Alberto Del Rio is doing half the fucking talking.
More like a
But
quarter.
he's also forgotten how to fucking wrestle anyone at any time.
You know, I was saying this before the show went on the air. I was really looking forward to Del Rio coming back because I followed some of his matches in Ring of Honor and they were fucking amazing. I saw him cut really great promos in Lucha Underground, and he had he was really motivated and he seemed like he was fired up and he was ready to prove a point. He comes back to WWE and he's just you can just see his soul just dying.
Well, when you're walking back into that place after the circumstances surrounding his departure, it can't feel that good.
It's just like, well, I have no pride. I'm going to go back to these people who openly despised me because of my ethnicity.
Yeah, I
and
feel
I'm
like
going to be made into a comedy character based on that.
they offered him a sombrero full of gold coins, I think, to come back.
Yeah,
And he accepted it.
But hey, they'll let me fly first class, so...
Was it delivered by a dancing Brock Lesnar?
Possibly.
I hope so. That would be a great
But while he's
present.
been away, he has perfected the kind of look off, not at the camera, just into nowhere when he's contemplated something with his hand on Zeb's shoulder. It's kind of
I
like
feel like he's just thinking, what the fuck have I done with my life?
he narrows his eyes. It's a very specific look to him. Maybe he's so used to winking that he can't keep... One of his eyes is always kind of like that permanently, so he's just bringing the other one down to that level. What do you
That
think?
could be. Speaking of down to a certain level,
Oh.
His completely unnecessary, convoluted, stop the momentum of the match and put you in a stupid fucking tree of woe to stomp on your chest maneuver is the new Orton DDT. It kills the momentum of whatever is going on in the match to put you in a position that you were not in, to pull you out of that position inconveniently and then pin you for a win that should not be taking place right now.
If you were analysing the crime scene of a Del Rio match and you were retracing the steps, you would think that the person who took the finishing move was actually dead or drugged at the time of the impact, wouldn't you? Because there's no way that a conscious person would allow themselves to be put into that position in the midst of a wrestling match. It's the same with Orton's DDT.
Yeah. Remember when Orton's DDT used to be treated like it was practically murder, like worse than the punt?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then he started doing it in every goddamn match. It's the same thing. Anytime someone comes up with a spot that's kind of cool or kind of creative, WWE just goes, okay, that's your new thing. You're doing that all the time now.
Prime example, the one thing that I really have grown to hate about Roman Reigns is the drive-by that he did one time, and I said that was cool. I bet they make that shoved into every match of his now, and they do. It's completely fucking impractical and shouldn't happen more than once a fucking 6 months.
Well,
Yeah,
it-
but
it is
now
at
it's-
the very least
Now it's
a
part
more
of his babyface comeback.
It is at the very least a more practically applicable move than the 619.
and he's the only guy that can do it.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he's the only person who can throw a drop kick and land on a surface that was right there.
Now,
That's
here's the thing
idiotic.
to consider. Is it possible that they're pandering way too much to the live crowds and treating the TV shows like house shows? Because you would
Yes.
think at a house show they would bring out the famous spots because you just want to send the audience home happy. It doesn't matter
They
if
do
it's
that
at the
with their
expense
matches.
of the viewership because no one's watching it outside of the arena. But then when you do it on TV every single week, it diminishes the value of it. But the audience pop, so they went home happy. But the TV audience gets bored with it. So ratings
it's not
drop,
just-
house show attendances go up.
Yeah, and it's not just the matches. The storylines are done the same way. We run the same fucking matches over and over, week in, week out. Keep the story in first gear for like a month because we're built on this like this old territory mentality where it's you can run things over and over throughout the territory because the guys in New York won't see the show that happened in Boston, but you can't fucking do that on a weekly televised show. You can't.
And why do you even want to? Why do we have to have the same fucking guys do the same fucking matches on every show when you've got at least twice as many guys on the roster as you have matches to fill on Raw?
I would like to present Exhibit B as well. The fact that they have about 95% of the show taking place in the ring, either matches or promos. They have so few backstage segments, which are great for the TV audience, but not that amazing for the live crowd. So why is everything just focused on that live crowd, and they just don't care about the TV audience at all? It's an odd path that they've taken.
It's because they don't book it as a television show. I mean, you look at something like Lucha Underground, which was built around being filmed for TV, and it makes a lot more sense. There's a lot more backstage segments. There's a lot more promo videos and things like that. WWE puts together their shows like it's a circus that just happens to be on TV. Like the gigantic portion of your audience, the millions of people watching at home, are not as important as the 10 or so thousand people in attendance.
And it wasn't always that way. When was the last time we had something crazy going on outside the arena, like, for example, Stone Cold and Booker T fighting in the supermarket?
When's the last time someone was thrown into the Gulf of Mexico?
Well, there was that time that Cody Rhodes threw Damian Sandow's briefcase into the river.
That's the last time I can think of, and that was, what, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
There was one time that Rey Mysterio Hurricane Rana Jack Swagger into, I think, the Rio Grande, maybe?
The fact that we're struggling should tell you, though. Why don't they have something memorable going on backstage every single week? The most
Because
you get
they
is
don't
one
utilize-
promo and one scene in the authorities' office.
Because they have a cast of twice as many guys as they actually use, and no one is allowed to develop. Because characters don't fucking interact in a meaningful way ever.
When I think back to around about the Attitude Era, obviously the wrestling wasn't as good, but the matches aren't necessarily what you remember. I remember the parts that entertained me the most would be backstage in the APA's office with the door but no walls, and they would insist that people knock on the door. You don't have anything funny like that going on. It seems like the backstage environment doesn't exist outside the authorities' office anymore.
And if you do have something that's kind of funny going on, A, they will run it into the fucking ground, and B, the people who are funny will be treated as complete losers. Because, I don't know.
It's like it's not. It's like
There's no fucking reason. I don't fucking know.
nothing exists until it walks through the curtain. Basically, you get that impression. Nothing happens unless it's in front of the cameras, unless it's in front of those arena cameras. And it's sad because it is supposed to be a TV show first. So, I believe we have emptied out the pool of all the meaty goodness. So, Mr. Poit, would you
Yes.
like to take up a more comfortable position in your seat? Maybe arm yourself with some kind of drink with an umbrella in it, just off camera.
Oh, there's no umbrella, but I got a glass of water.
Oh, well.
Well, you're on your way to becoming a social media lounge legend, but you're not quite there yet.
Well, as ever and always, I would like to do a quick shout out to our friends over at the Game Buoy video game podcast, your stop for left of center gaming news and views. We also invite you to give us your thoughts. Suggest talking points of your own and tell us what you thought of the week in wrestling by posting comments on this video, tweeting at us at Tables Ladders, or by replying to our posts on Facebook. We also ask that you follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook and share our posts, rate us, and subscribe on iTunes, and shop on Amazon.com using our affiliate link. All of these links can be found on our Podbean page, tablesladderspodcast.podbean.com.
And with that, all that remains to be said is TLP, everybody.
TLP, everybody.
TLP, everybody.
Everybody except Zevon Dudley.
Try this at home, kids.
Yeah, where did he go?